The North American car industry has long been about excess. And we've always known that, and it's pretty much been the norm since the very beginning. I like to think about, say Cadillac in the 1970s, and if we compare, well, in fact, any Cadillac from the 70s to, say, a Mercedes-Benz, let's say an S-Class and a DeVille, it's clear to see which automaker or which thinking actually owned excess. I guess we could say that's where Cadillac, or when Cadillac, for a short period of time anyway, became the norm of the world. But as we fast forward into the 21st century, excess took on a new dimension. But before I go on with that, I just want to say, today, if we look at Cadillac and Mercedes-Benz, well, Cadillac essentially has the CT5 as far as flagship cars go, and well, Benz still has the S-Class. So excess has kind of been taken over by, let's just say, the German automaker versus the North American automakers when it comes to luxury cars. But when it comes to SUVs, it's just about impossible to beat the North American automakers. And it's become very, very clear to me in the last year or two, with my life having changed and my needs having evolved, that excess, in fact, in some cases, comes at the expense of capability, versatility, and just user-friendliness. And this, all new 2025, all new is a strong word, but very, very new 2025 Lincoln Navigator is another one of those large SUV examples where it's large, it can do a lot of things, but it's not designed to be as utilitarian as its size would suggest. And this is something that I've discovered or kind of figured out over the last couple of years, as I said, where some SUVs were really designed to do, I'll call them family things, whereas others were designed to just replace your common premium luxury sedan, in this case anyway, and just give you more real estate, more volume, but without actually increasing, I guess, its abilities. And that to me is modern excess, where just everything is bigger, but you're still doing the exact same thing with it as you would have with a two-row, five-seater sedan some 25 years ago, or maybe even 15 years ago. I'm losing track of time. Anyhow, in the following video, we're going to do more or less a walk around and a drive of this Lincoln Navigator. And I'm going to try and show you what I mean by where excess has left behind some of this versatility and capability in exchange for just, well, limitations, in fact. So please hang in there. So now that I think about it, in the case of the death of the premium sedan, we could probably look to Lincoln as being one of the first to actually abandon the car altogether. I mean, Ford effectively has all but completely abandoned the automobile in North America. I mean, with the death of the town car some time ago, and the Continental, which was really a fantastic car, and the slightly less lovable MKZ. So that's all behind us now, and over at Lincoln, since all they do is sell SUVs, I mean, the Corsair, which is about to die, the Nautilus, the Aviator, and their flagship since 1998, where there's no reason to hide it, even though the town car was available at the time, this has been their flagship for the last almost 27 years now, closing in on 28, and with reason, because this thing has absolute presence. And now in this generation, well, it also has a price to match its standing, because this thing starts at just shy of $130,000 for the base Reserve. And this is the short version. If you want the L version, it's an extra $4K. There's also a black label, but let's not bother with that for the moment. The size, it's about size, obviously. 5.35 meters, 5.33 meters, I believe, plus an extra, I think it's another 30 centimeters longer when you get into the L, so 5.65 meters long. That's enormous. Wheelbase is also huge at like 3.1 meters. I mean, this is obviously a big truck. And it does big truck things because it will tow up to 8,700 pounds, and it's got a big, well, big, not that big in fact, a 3.5 liter twin turbo EcoBoost V6, which I'll touch on when we get behind the wheel very shortly. But it's what happens on the inside. Because XS takes on, and this is what I'm going to try to explain, takes on a few different dimensions. There's the massive screen, which is just pointless and excessive in my opinion. But oh my goodness, everyone that steps into this vehicle, they all love it. They think it's the greatest thing ever. And it's not even the biggest screen you can get in a luxury SUV. So imagine if they saw what you can get in an Escalade. Anyhow, but it's really, it comes down to the second row. And that's where I kind of take, not offense, but I get bothered with the fact that this thing should be able to effortlessly, instantly accommodate 7 or 8 passengers as it is rated to do. And now, let's go check the inside of the Lincoln Navigator. Okay, well, just before we jump into the SUV, I'll just give you a few more quick deets about my 2025 Lincoln Navigator Reserve tester. It does have a few options, one being the Jet Appearance Package, which gives you these 22-inch blacked out wheels, the black roof rails, and a bunch of other blacked out things. 22s are standard, by the way. It also has the dual massaging second row captain seat. So this is a 7-seater model, which I'm happy about. And it retails for about $140,000 with fees before taxes and all of the above. And I know I said I wouldn't, but the black label starts at $152,000, give or take, before fees. That is a lot of money, but yes, it's a lot of SUV. Visually speaking, I mean, the SUV looks really, really good. We'll just leave it at that. I think that's enough. Let's open, that's one of the things that Lincoln and Ford are very proud of, is their split hatch, which I have to admit is kind of very, very cool to access the 649 liters of space behind the third row. This kind of makes it very nice where you don't have to worry about things rolling out, and it's all powered, obviously. So when the third row is down, you're looking at 1,722 liters of space. That's fairly generous. I mean, nothing to say there. But considering the overall dimensions of this SUV, 1,722 is not that much. However, it is plenty. Now, where things get iffy for me, and this is what I mean by excess. Yes, I know, I have 4 baby seats most of the time. For this video, I only put 2 in. Makes it a little bit easier. The captain seats, yes, massaging, are completely power operated, and they are extremely comfortable. But when I'm getting the little monsters in and out of the vehicle, because of the massive, I always say colossal, massive center console here, which has tons of storage. This is actually a bin under there, and there's storage in there. What the kids have to do is activate seat movement. Yay, it's power operated, it tilts forward, and I can just barely leave a seat there, and I can access the third row, which actually, here, I'll do it just for your viewing pleasure, is very comfortable. In fact, if you can see that, my knees are well bent. There's a lot of space, the lower seat cushion is high off the ground. And there's plenty of headroom. I won't show you because I'm going to look ridiculous. Visibility out the side glass is quite nice too. I won't bring it forward, but I can tell you that there's just enough room behind the seat back when it comes back into its position. Now, without tripping, yes, the power running board is also a blessing. But this is what I mean by, Okay, this is what I mean by, for some unexplained reason, the seat would not go back until I turned the truck on. But again, actually, let's do this. While we're at it, you can look at the fit, finish, the materials. Honestly, it's very nice. Surfaces are lovely, the materials are nice, but the presentation, is very bland. But I can tell you where all the effort went. It's right here in the 48-inch screen. But I'm just going to give you a shot of the rear seat. Now, if you're a parent and you have, say, 3 kids, and you like the idea of having to pass through in the middle, well, Navigator just won't work for you, because with the 8-seater, obviously this is a bench, so it's 332. But if you have only 2 kids or you use this as a limo, this is pretty awesome. Anyway, enough about that. That's my biggest problem with this SUV, because otherwise, the pièce de résistance. It's enormous, but as far as I'm concerned, it's distracting, it's excessive, it's pointless, and it is assisted by this, an 11.1-inch screen down here, which my driving position is in fact in the lowest position possible. I'm not that tall, and from my point of view, so this is how I see out the truck, look how far down the screen actually is. That's terrible, because I have to really lower my eyes in order to access the menus here, while everything else is displayed up there and I don't really have access to it. This is just, for reference. But the tool is down here and it's far too low. But I understand why Lincoln wanted to do this. They wanted a nice clean surface for one of their massive speakers right there. But this is a big problem, and I'm not sure which is a bigger problem, if it's here in the Navigator with these 2 screens, or in the Expedition, where the screen up here is a little bit shorter, but this screen I think is a little higher, and they kind of overlap visually. There's too much effort, and it's misplaced, or it's not taken. The thinking is not taken to the very end, where this does not work whatsoever. It's a great piece of conversation piece, but otherwise it's horrible. But in the interest of whatnot, that was the home screen. So your drive modes, where you press the front grille, and you have the seat controls where they're massaging. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of ways, drive as a massage, a lot of menus to navigate through. Thankfully, for the most part, it's fairly straightforward. So your drive modes are here: normal, excite, conserve, slippery, all of that business. I will admit that Excite has a lot of things going for it. I'll touch on that very soon. All your applications, everything you need to know. And this is how you can actually modify the upper screen. So if you want tire pressure instead of weather, well, there you go. It's cool, but ultimately, in my opinion, it's pointless. HVAC controls fairly straightforward, though if you want to change the vent position, I really like this. But again, it's a little bit distracting, and I fear that something will fail eventually. Anyhow, that's that for that. So big storage. You have some storage down here as well, which is very useful. Visibility overall is actually quite good, despite the fact that the base is colossal. There, I used it. But because you're sitting so high, you can pretty much just see around the pillar. And I really do like the steering wheel, that oval shape. It really kind of messes with your mind, where it's small and seems destined for a sports car, but it's in a huge SUV. And these buttons are a disaster. Just absolutely, they're haptic. And if you don't position your thumb or finger wherever, exactly where you want the menu to be, things change. And it's just not user-friendly. It's extremely distracting, because you have to look down. You can kind of realize or learn where the positions for whatever controls you want are, but this is a horrible, horrible idea. So the whole HMI, or nearly, in this vehicle, I think it's cool to show, but it's not good to own. Anyhow, onto the road. In short, the driving experience with the new Lincoln Navigator is very nice. For all intents and purposes, what Lincoln has done is dialed in an enormous amount of comfort, of refinement, of quietness, and they've managed to do it absolutely, almost perfectly. I mentioned twin turbo V6, so it's 440 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque. And that torque comes in at 3,300 RPM, which is relatively low and accessible. But this is a very heavy SUV, as you very well can see. But see, nobody told the V6 that. That sounds probably one of the best sounding turbocharged V6 engines I have ever experienced. This thing absolutely boogies. It's kind of frightening how quickly this thing picks up speed when given the old beans. 10-speed automatic transmission, which has been flawless, seamless, effortless, clean, quiet, creamy smooth, no issues whatsoever that I can even think of. The engine, the powertrain, the V6 is phenomenal. The power and the way it delivers the power, but the 10-speed just figures everything out. With I don't know, you'd swear it has 75 years of experience and hasn't made a mistake ever. But where things kind of get a little bit off for me, but not necessarily, this is a little bit kind of nitpicky on my behalf. I will admit it, I can. This thing has an adaptive suspension. You can't set it per se unless you use the drive modes that I showed you. In normal, be it 2 high or 4 high or whatever, it's very soft. Floaty soft, which at lower speeds can be very nice. That's my stuff that's making noise. There are no rattles whatsoever in here. The ride is actually very nice. But if you remain in normal, which I'm assuming 98.5% of owners, drivers will, what happens is that over repeated changes in the road surface, the Navi will actually begin to ride like a boat. And on a couple of occasions, I swear to you, I felt a little bit off and I was wondering why. And it's on the second experience where I started to float around that I understood what was happening. This is tuned far too softly, which is why I go into excite, and that's when the dampers actually firm up. 4 high is locked in, and it's as though the engine finds an extra 40 or 50 pound-feet of torque and another 25 or 30 horsepower, because suddenly this turns into a dangerously quick, large land-to-land or surface-to-surface missile. It is a little bit alarming, but the dampers, they firm up. I'm moving a fair amount, but it's very well controlled. In fact, maybe dialing this back 10% would be the perfect normal drive mode, and then you could actually firm this up slightly for your sport mode. But this has been my nearly full-time default drive mode. Steering is fine. Turning radius is surprisingly small. Brakes are very powerful and often solicited when exploiting the amount of power available on tap. All in all, fuel consumption, you may want to go back, unless you can see it now on your screen. I can't tell. It's not great. Ford Lincoln Natural Resources Canada says you can probably expect to average about 13 and change per 100 kilometers. Maybe. I severely doubt it. 15 is probably your best bet, and I'm averaging at this point 15.8 liters per 100 kilometers, which I'm not disappointed in because I kind of expected it. But look, all in all, the Lincoln Navigator, for the powertrain mostly, is really, really interesting. I mean, I do love me a 5.3 liter V8 from the GMs. 6.2 is very creamy smooth as well, but it doesn't have this kind of oomph and get out of your wayness. But my heart, I think, belongs to the BMW X7 in this segment. It starts at about 120K, so price-wise, they're very similar. Speaking of X7, oh no, that's an X5. Anyway, especially an M60, which is about 150K, So same price as a black label. You get all the power and all the panache that even a Navigator can't necessarily match. There's always a GLS. There's the Escalade too, which I really like, but I'd still go for the BMW. The QX80, it's okay. I don't know. I'm not entirely sold on the idea. There are a few other options, but the BMW X7 has personality, charisma, and styling to go with. This is nice, but for this round, the Germans win.